oftentimes they give the team a little spark. So Rasmus is saying, you know what? I got to start hitting some of these fuckers a little harder. Got to start sharpening my fists on these bozos. The Buffalo Sabres, after beating the defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, said, you know what we ought to do is punch each other, because Rasmus Dahlin threw a hit on Peyton Krebs in practice today, and the two had hands, and they've begun fighting. And this is the video courtesy of Sarah Holland of Channel News for Buffalo, I believe. Good stuff in practice. And sometimes in practice, guys tussle. This is a fight. This is a fight.
That's a fight, and it's like normally it doesn't come after a hip check in practice from your captain. Can we get a grade here? What's your level of concern that the Buffalo Sabres are fighting each other in practice? Because I'll say right off the bat, I kind of like it.
0.000. 0. Infinity repeating. You don't see a lot of these in practice, but when I covered the NHL, I would see them in practice, and oftentimes they give the team a little spark. So Rasmus is saying, you know what? I got to start hitting some of these fuckers a little harder. Got to start sharpening my fists on these bozos.
Yeah, people are saying, like, you don't want your captain throwing a hip check. I love this response that I got. It was like, you know, it's always good when the captain with 0 career fights goes out and throws a hip check and fights your teammate in practice. That's a good thing to happen. Yeah, sometimes it fucking is. Like the Sabres, we've talked about a million times that they're all like chummy and good vibes, and then they get on the ice and they don't play with fire, they don't play with passion, they get run over.
I'll be honest, I don't even know if they're chummy and good vibes. Outside of that pizza party last year, I don't know if it's like they're just having too much fun and they need someone to yell at them. I think that they're more like, what do we do? I don't know where to put my hands. I don't know what to do here. And they got to get a coach that comes in here and says, you don't get to have a bunch of fun songs. We're doing Motley Crue, and it's a boring pick, and that's your goal celebration song. Also, start beating each other up in practice. I don't hate it. If we find out after that, if Peyton Krebs is like, Rasmus Dahlin said something about my heritage, that like if we were finding out they're like being like bad people to each other, okay. But these are all good boys. They're just trying to get those competitive juices flowing.
And like, I don't know what happened here. I'm leaving room for Peyton Krebs to be deserved to get punched in the face too.
Sean, how do you feel about this as a Sabres fan?
I mean, on paper, I don't like the fact that our probably best player is throwing unnecessary hits in practice, but like you guys have kind of alluded to, they need a little grit. They need a little toughness, and that's why you put the C on somebody, to provide that kind of leadership, if that's what the team needs. And I certainly think they do. So I'm not that upset about it. I definitely think Peyton Krebs is a little bit of shit on his ass, as you put it, with Connor Bedard. I think he could be a little bit of a shithead sometimes. So,
and
I'm here for it. I'll say I like the participants.
Yes.
If Dylan Cousins were involved in this, I'd have a tougher time wrapping my head around it, because I'm like, I don't know. Now I have to like pick sides. This more seems like a captain and I wouldn't call Peyton Krebs
a borderline fourth liner.
Yeah. So a captain and, let's say, a soldier figuring out what's what.
Yes.
Yeah, and as the chat pointed out, goat head practice today.
Yes.
I like the goat head providing a different energy to this group.
Dahlin famously said that they feel more dangerous in the goat heads.
Yeah.
That was dangerous.
That was quite dangerous.
Was dangerous.
I can't remember the participants. Somebody in the chat says, need a review of teams that have had fights in practice and where they finished the season. I'm
St.
big
Louis Blues.
on, St. Louis Blues.
Won the Stanley Cup later that year.
2011 Boston Bruins, after getting shut out 2-0, I want to say, against the Anaheim Ducks. Jonas Hiller was wearing the sick mask. They lost 2-0. Next day in practice. They had 2 days in between games. Next day in practice. I can't remember who fought, but shit, I think that Mark Savard was involved in there. I can't remember the exact names. I'd have to either ask someone else who was there or whatever. But I remember 2 guys were fighting, and there was a sense of like, this actually doesn't feel like rock bottom. This actually seems like this team is at least kind of trying. And then they went out December 23rd and fucking killed the Atlanta Thrashers. And that was a turning point in that season, was considered when they went on the road and beat Vancouver. But for me, I was like, it was when they started beating each other up in practice and we're like, fuck this. So this can be a good thing for the Sabres, who have had kind of a weird week. Sean, terrible loss on Thursday against the Kings in what was simultaneously great win for the Kings because they didn't play very well. And Anze Kopitar was like, you know who can probably beat the Sabres by themselves? Me.
Yeah,
I could probably do that.
I mean, if by great win you mean a win that they didn't deserve on paper.
Oh, on the internet.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they deserved to win a meter. They didn't play well at all. They kind of skated away with it, but that's
but they
the
came back
privilege of playing the Buffalo Sabres.
Demoralizing goal taken off the board.
Yes,
courtesy of Zach Benson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the Sabres, you're right, have had a weird start to the season where like very, very down, even more down. Then nice little pick-me-up win, and then they start fighting each other.
Nice like pick-me-up. I mean, Saturday night, they were always beating the Panthers.
I mean,
Saturday night.
If you can't beat that team,
that was the ghost of the Panthers.
You gotta pack it up.
Matthew Tkachuk, who is now out for a week with illness. Sasha Barkov obviously was out after getting injured, I think, the previous night. And I'll tell you what, I don't do this a lot unless it's on Cody Ceci to score the first goal. I placed a $100 bet that night. I just bet the Sabres money line, thought they were playing at 8, turned on the game at 8:20. They were playing at 7. It was already 3-1. Watched like 2 minutes of it. I was like, Panthers aren't coming back in this. Didn't even need to watch the rest of it. I still did. I'm a Sabres guy, but things were looking up and they began fighting each other. So I like this. I think this is Rasmus saying, we beat the ghost of the Florida Panthers. We should still be pissed with our start. We are still but a 1-3-0 team to begin the season.
I taking Almay's word for this in the chat, but she said that Lindy said that Peyton hit Rasmus first and that he was trying to even the score.
I was going to
track so hard.
I was going to ask if you could monitor Sabres Twitter and see what's coming out of that room.
If Lindy doesn't have a problem with it, why should we?
No, I mean, that's kind of what you hire Lindy for, is for them to be a little more, have a little more asshole to them, be a little grittier.
Hey, thanks for watching the channel.
We appreciate everybody who checks out our stuff, but 80% of our viewers are not actually subscribed to this page, so if you could smash that subscribe button, it would go a very long way for us.
The more subscriptions we have, the more visibility we get from YouTube, which allows us to do more.
So press that button. Thank you. We weren't planning on doing a ton of Sabres today, so now that we are, I do kind of want to get out all the Sabres thoughts. How do we feel about the handling of the goal song, which famously, they said they were only doing one goal song this year, and we heard it on a goal that was called back. I would laugh at that if I weren't a fan of the Edmonton Oilers. It is revealed to be for the blue jerseys. It is Kickstart My Heart by Motley Crue, and for the Goat Heads, it is Song 2 by Blur. Both of those, I will note, in case you don't know those songs, very kind of generic, stock, commercial type of goal songs. My theory was that it's Lindy coded and that he's like, we're not getting excited about what our goal song is going to be. We are going to have stock goal songs, and if you want to hear it, score a fucking goal. If you don't want to hear it, I don't fucking care, boys.
Sure, but so if that's the case, then they shouldn't have done such a fucking big rollout on social media with like, guess what our goal song is? And it turns out to be a very generic type goal song. I do like goal song, or song number 2 being song two being the Goat Head goal song, because it aligns with the year that they introduced the Goat Head. Pretty cool. The Motley Crue one, who gives a shit? Especially because the Sabres over the last like 10 years at one point had one of the coolest goal songs in the entire league with Let Me Clear My Throat. Mm-hmm. That was incredible. And it was so off the beaten path that you were like, damn, cool move, Buffalo Sabres. So to go back to like completely generic, who gives a shit?
Going with a classic that somehow isn't overdone is such a tasteful move. When they had Let Me Clear My Throat, it was amazing. One of my favorite wedding experiences. I was at a wedding, and the DJ took a lot of pride in being able to cultivate those big wedding dance floor moments without using the predictable songs. Mm-hmm. And as I do at weddings, I started talking to this DJ, and she was like, I'm going to get a Don't Stop Believin' moment out of this group without ever playing Don't Stop Believin'. And I was like, I hope so, because I want that moment, but I don't really want that song.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes later,
Mr. Brightside.
she plays Raise Up by P.D. Pablo.
Nice.
And the whole floor is like, it's just like Don't Stop, like everybody jumping up and down, screaming at the top of their lungs. I looked over, I was like, you son of a bitch. You fucking did it with P.D. Pablo. So they were able to do that when they had Let Me Clear My Throat, because that's a song that everybody knows, yet they haven't heard that for goal songs. I've heard Kickstart My Heart for taking the ice for the second period. That's how stock that is in the hockey world. So things looking up and down for the Buffalo Sabres. Any final thoughts, Sean?
As far as the goal songs, I love that they're doing a special one for the Goat Head. The choices themselves are not that interesting. Let Me Clear My Throat was awesome. I don't mind losing the individual goal songs because we lost the most important individual goal song with Jeff Skinner. So it is what it is.
And like the Sabres as a whole need to get away, I think, from individual type things and start playing as a team. Start fighting as a team.
Exact quote from Lindy on the fight via Lance Lasowski. Boys will be boys. Rask got bumped in the drill and even up the score. I wouldn't read too much into that. We want competitive practices, which when you pair that with the things that Casey Middlestat said after he left Buffalo last year, when he was like, oh, this is what a real practice looks like. Good sign for the Sabres.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I like it.
I like this for my guys.
Again, it would be very different if one of them had come up limp or something like that. On paper, not a good decision, but all else well that ends well.
Somebody noted that they had to switch away from Let Me Clear My Throat after the pandemic. Don't want to show any signs of illness.
Oh,
people are going to run for the...
Okay, it's Ambassador to Greece, so he's being sarcastic.
No, he's not. He's always serious.
Somebody else, I'd be like, come on.
No, that's from Fauci.
It's funny because one of the
practice... Look what Fauci took from us.
We all silly like the mayor.